Hey everybody, welcome back. As promised, it is the second set of Wednesday gaming for CI7 Round 3, which is all lower bracket action. So, as you know, it's an elimination match. And today, this moment, we've got SoulWind and I Love You Jesus, which for those of you who have been following this tournament for a while, probably know it is CyberOdin. That's pretty much it for introductions. I guess we can briefly talk about the history. SoulWind is the runner-up last year. He's one of only 2 players to play in all 7 of these CALLOUS Invitational tournaments, him and M-Dragon. He, like I said, made money last year, but hasn't made money any other time. Maybe he'll do it again this year. Odin coming into this tour with an 0-4 record in CI. Not great. Did manage to win round 1 against some noob, and then lost to Roro in the second round, which is how he ended up here. That's pretty much the gist. Let's get into the action. It is a best of 3, as all the matches are until we get really, really late in the tournament. SoulWind's going to be on the bottom, and I Love You Jesus, that's CyberOdin, going to be on the top. Skarm and Meta are normal-ish leads. Mash coming down with a miss, and Spikes come down as well. So early advantage for SoulWind. Mash is going to connect the second time, possibly choice band damage. Gets a raise, but it doesn't matter because he's immediately roared away. Gengar appears. Odin is a big fan of Focus Punch Gengar, and if SoulWind did any amount of scouting or prep, that's something that he should be aware of. Hypnosis, he often pairs with Focus Punch. It very well could be Ice Punch, Thunderbolt, Focus Punch, and Hypno. But we'll see. For now, we have a sleeping Zapdos via the Hypnosis. And if he has Sleep Talk, he didn't click it there. Ice Punch coming down, trying to punish him. Only a third, and there's no sand at the moment, so he's going to be able to live probably 2 more of those. But he does actually have Sleep Talk, and that's pretty meaningful punishment. 60% Bolt, Gengar's definitely not living another, so this may make Odin think twice. Here comes Rachi. Ice Punch damage is practically nothing. The only really bad thing that could happen there is a freeze, but didn't happen. And now Celebi appears. Wish, which he may want to consider passing to the Zapdos, but everybody else pretty healthy at the moment. Leech Seed going to miss, and Toxic going to connect. So the Wish does not get passed anywhere, and we are seeded. And there's Wish again. Same situation as before. Zapdos would take it, but isn't in desperate need of it. Everybody else doing fine. Here comes Gar. And it is, in fact, the obvious play, the Zapdos. Still no sand in this one, so anything with lefties getting it. I'm not sure why he went to Gar if he... I mean, Zapdos was the obvious Wish target, right? I'm not clear what he was anticipating there. Maybe he just went to get lefties? Not sure. But either way, we end up back to Celebi again. Thunderbolt was the Sleep Talk move, so good thing he did get the Gengar out of the way. And Leech Seed comes down again. He's actually already blown 6 PP on that. 3 of them against the Zapdos with the pressure ability. And now Dugtrio coming in. What's it trying to catch? I guess the Rachi was the target there, but swing and a miss for Odin as he finds the Skarmory instead, prompting him to go back to Gengar, and there's Spike Slayer number 2, which Odin, even though he does still have 2 unrevealeds, hasn't shown a way to remove yet. There's Protect. Thunderbolt, protected against. Still a sandless game, and still a 6-6 game at the moment. Now Misdreavus coming in for SoulWind. Okay. Haven't seen too much of her, but it's not her first appearance in CI7. And they're going to start exchanging T-Bolts, with Gengar being the faster poke, but Missy taking the bolts a little bit better if they go blow for blow. And SoulWind tries to trap the Gar here. Instead is going to trap Celebi, so it can no longer escape. Leech Seed comes down. And there is Perish Song. Nasty combo, mean Perish, and Celebi might end up dying here. Leech Seed is going to help the damage, but Missy obviously is going to have rest, so see what kind of rolls we get with Psychic. See if there's any crits, see if there's any specs drops. Perish count down to 2. Like I said, Leech Seed definitely helping, but the fact that there's no sand definitely hurting. And that Psychic is the same damage roll as before. 31%, no drop, no crit. Celebi about to die. Here comes Skarm. And Leech Seed is all he can do on the way out. Not all that exciting. And Celebi dies via the power of music. That is the first knockout of the series, and that leaves us, of course, in a 6-5 situation with SoulWind in the lead. Blissey appears at this point, and if there is a focus punch on that Gar, he wasn't able to pull the trigger and catch her with it. Gonna switch it up to Thunderbolt against Bliss? I don't know. Doesn't seem super worth it had she just stayed in and clicked Ice Beam, but gonna at least pressure the Zapdos here with Ice Punch. Zapdos did not go for Sleep Talk there. And now Rachi reappears. SoulWind's team seems very, very well set up against most special threats. Between Rachi, which is a special wall, Blissey, which is obviously the special wall, Zapdos, which rest variants function as a special wall, and Missy, which if you get out of hand with Calm Minds, it can just perish you away. This is about as anti-special offense as it gets for SoulWind. He's about one Reggie away from being the full-on special counter team. Dugtrio does catch Rachi here, but might get poison stalled out. EQ a fuck ton there, but just shy of being enough. And now Dugtrio is actually going to lose this 1v1. Fire Punch plus Poison, enough to kill Rachi very low, but crucially alive, and that furthers the lead for SoulWind. Now up 6-4. Protect and Mash, fair enough. Might as well fish for a raise, I suppose. Feels silly if you miss, though. Here comes Skarm, and he goes for Mash, which ironically it would have missed. Not that SoulWind had any way of knowing that. Could have stayed in Fire Punched, as it turns out. But Skarm is the safe and standard switch in this situation. I can't really find much of a reason right now to believe that Odin is winning this game or really has too much of a path to come back and win this game. He's down 6-4 in Mons. There's 3 spikes beneath his team. He's missed 3 Meteor Mashes in this particular transaction. I'm kind of surprised that he has a Skarm in the back. He feels like he had opportunities to get it in before, but I guess spikes are not that great against SoulWind's team. It's like a pseudo-Superman squad. Don't know if it's like an official Superman. I'd have to see the last Mon, but as far as I'm concerned, 4 flying or levitating types makes it Superman. He's got at least 3, and then he's got the 2 grounded pokes, so we'll see what's in the back very well. I mean, it's going to be, I guess it doesn't have to be a Rock Resist if you're comfy leaning on just Jirachi, but like it's probably just Flygon or Swampert, I would think. Could be a Water as well. Like a Suicune, the world may never know. But the lead gets bigger and bigger for SoulWind. Skarm also down for Odin. Little to nothing going right for him in this opening game of the best of 3. He does land Hypnosis on Bliss, so if he's got Focus Punch, now would be a wonderful time. Or I guess last turn would have been a wonderful time. A little bit late now. Does land the Ice Punch on the Zapdos and at least give himself a crit or freeze opportunity. Neither of which comes, but he gave himself a shot. Here comes Skarm. Ice Punch on that. Also doesn't land a crit or a freeze. Hasn't really gotten anywhere with added effects, which he's going to need quite a bit of luck to have any chance in hell in coming back in this game from how far behind he is. Thunderbolt again. There we go. Gets a para, but not a full para. And Roar does not show us the last poke. Just brings out the meta again. Gonna protect. And that mash would have connected, but is protected against. This mash does connect. 34% and a raise. Full power would be wonderful, but that doesn't come either. And still the last poke remains a mystery. It is Gengar yet again. Rachi comes in, fodders itself, so Odin at least on the board. And that's going to allow the Mystery Vest to come in relatively safely. It has killed 1 sleep turn, so should be totally fine here unless a critical hit comes down. Well out of range of Thunderbolt here. Pending Crit or Powerful Para, which is not an option when it's asleep. Wakey Wakey. Resty Resty. And Missy out of the woods and back to full health. Odin stubbornly still not showing that last poke. Meta in once again. And it gets another kill, so Odin making a little bit of a comeback here as Skarm goes down. Making it interesting at least. 4-3 situation. Gengar yet again. Odin will not show that last poke. Bound and determined to keep it his dirty little secret. And Ice Punch there without a crit was never going to kill. Comes up short. Gar goes down. 4-2. Finally he shows it, and I get why he was hiding it now. Suicune is going to be a tough sell into Zapdos, a Perish Song user, and Blissey. Going to be tough to get there with that guy. And it's going to immediately fish for a freeze with Ice Beam. Kind of don't blame him, given the dire situation that he's in. Odin begins CMing up, and he gets T-Waved. It is a sandless game, so the Coon is very bulky, but if he goes down to last poke Suicune, all SoulWind has to do is click Perish Song, and the Coon will lose. So Perish Song certainly one of the best overall counters to any last poke situation. Last Coon, last Lax, whatever it may be. Perish Song bails you out in that spot. So he's keeping the meta for that reason, because he can't go to last poke Suicune, because he'll just lose. Also, full para here could make him just lose. That was pretty lame for Odin, and that basically seals the game. Now it's only meta, which, I mean, I guess it can't be phased out now, but too little, too late. It's at 9%. One attack from anything would end the day, and it doesn't even have time to agility. Not that it's Agilogross, it's CB. But even if it were Agilogross, it wouldn't have time, because it would just get attacked and killed. And as such, SoulWind does in fact hang on and win this game. Odin makes it vaguely interesting, kind of pushes for a little bit of a comeback there, and some of Odin's stuff was pretty beat up. 15% Zapdos, SoulWind stuff, 15% Zapdos, 10% Blissey. The last was at full health. Odin made it interesting, but was never truly ahead in this game. And SoulWind, like I said, pretty much wire to wire, takes this one down. He's going to put Odin in a position where he's got to win 2 in a row, or he's going to be out of the tournament. As usual, guys, before we start Game 2, I just have to remind you of donations. I'll be even quicker than the last video. We cracked $2,000 today, which is awesome. Our goal is $2,600. If you have been enjoying this tour and you have the means to support it, we would super appreciate the donation. It doesn't have to be a lot. It can legit just be $5, the price of a coffee. Skip your coffee tomorrow, donate to the tour. It really does make a big difference. We are accepting donations via PayPal donation link. I don't keep anything. PayPal takes a really small chunk out of it, and the rest of it all goes into the prize pool, and it all goes to the players from there. So if we can break last year's record, $2,600, and you're able to help, if you've been enjoying the tour, if you've gotten just $5 worth of entertainment out of this tour so far, then please do consider contributing. If you're able to, it is much appreciated. Alrighty, Game 2, SoulWind and Odin. Odin's back against the wall, needs 2 in a row against last year's runner-up, or he will be eliminated. Players in the same positions as before. SoulWind on the bottom, I Love You Jesus, that's Odin on the top. And these are the 2 most common leads in the game in Zapdos and T-Tar respectively. And understandably, Odin is comfortable with it, but SoulWind is not. He switches in a Rock Resist on the Rock Slide. It is a very common Rock Resist, our boy Swampert. Gonna go for a Surf on the switch, just 25% to Skarm, so obviously not an offensive pert, and probably a relatively specially defensive Skarmory. Layer number 1 of Spikes comes down, pretty standard so far, and Fori comes in for SoulWind. For those of you who have watched SoulWind play ADV, say, ever over the past decade, you know that he is very much inclined towards stally TSS teams. It's his bread and butter. It's what he plays the very large majority of the time. And unsurprisingly, just like last game, that seems to be what he's playing here as well. Rapid Spin gets off, so Spikes briefly advantage for SoulWind, but there you go. Spikes again. And there you go, spin again. So SoulWind gonna be stubborn, wants to keep the 1-0 Spikes advantage, and will sit here as long as he needs to. Spikes and spin, riveting gameplay. One of them is gonna switch it up at some point. Spikes and rapid spin. Equally riveting to when that happened the turn before and the turn before that. Okay, compelling. See, guys, this is why you should donate. You can't get this kind of entertainment anywhere else. There we go. He gets it out of there. And he goes with Whirlwind. Holy wormhole. Holy time warp. Whirlwind Scarm. Nobody uses that anymore. They're all roar these days. What a world we live in. 1-1. So after all that, do we have a Gengar to block Rapid Spin? It does, but SoulWind is wise enough to not go for it. Instead, his second layer spikes. 2-1 advantage for him. See what Gar wants to do. It is Odin's beloved Hypno-Gar. Yet again, Hypno is going to miss a lot with shaky 60-40 accuracy. And this is one of those times. Zapdos does not, in fact, get hypnotized. Super Raichi? Is that because, like, he's friends with Raichi, who's also Latin American? Or is that supposed to say Super Rachi? I don't know. It's weird, though, that all these other folks have nicknames and just, like, just Claydol. We have T-Rex, Metal Bird, Brofist, Super Raichi, and Claydol. I could never. That would drive my OCD insane. You either nickname everybody or nobody. You don't nickname 4 pokes and then have the last 1 or 2 not have nicknames. That is unacceptable. Can't do it. But back to the matter at hand. We have Super Raichi, which is not a super variant of Arashi, by the way. It seems to be an Astarachi. Clicking Wish here. We'll just check who might need that. It doesn't look like anybody needs it. It looks like everybody's totally healthy for Odin. The Fire Punch there, pretty unexciting. A burn there would have been sweet for him, but it doesn't come. And yeah, my Milotic has the MX nickname, so 5 pokes are nicknamed, and then you have Claydol. I hate it. I could never do that. That would drive me crazy. Kind of driving me crazy secondhand. I'm not even playing. Here comes Doll, which, well, he roars it away, so that's something, but if it does click Rapid Spin, SoulWind has not shown any way to really prevent or punish that. He could, like, hit it with Hidden Power or something, or Toxic, and Odin is stubbornly and repeatedly trying to get that Doll in and get a Rapid Spin off, but SoulWind keeps roaring it away, and Milo here, I mean, hey, decent chunk, down to 2/3. Claydol again, and he roars yet again. But he drags out Gengar, which is one of the immune pokes. Half the team for Odin is, in fact, Spikes immune. So on any given roar, when you're roaring out the Claydol, which is a Spikes immune poke, you've got a 40% chance to get a poke that doesn't care. Thunderbolt finally whiffs on Doll, so finally he can Rapid Spin, which is what he's been trying to do all along. And SoulWind, in fact, does not have, or at least does not show, a Ghost here. Rapid Spin is successful, and the Spikes advantage goes back to Odin. Very briefly, because now it's 1-1. So, Fori and Gar. Focus Punch, hoping to catch Tar or Bliss. That is going to catch neither of those, and it's going to do a paltry 23% to Fori due to Gengar's very poor attack stat and Fori's very high defense stat, respectively. Zapdos, no interest in being hypnotized earlier, and no interest now. Claydol comes in, same loop we saw before, immediately roared out, just like before, and there is the lead T-Tar coming in. And it does not have leftovers of note. So Swampert in. And T-Tar doesn't stick around. We end up with Skarm. So 2-1 is the current spikes count in what is a 6-6 game, 33 turns in. 2-2 on spikes. Odin can block the spin. SoulWind has not been able to so far, and I don't think his last is Gar, but it could be. Protect their whiffs as T-Tar reappears for SoulWind. His version does have lefties, but he doubles it right back to 4E. And looks like it's a good thing that he does, because Toxic there was the attempt, and obviously Tar doesn't want to eat that. So here comes Gar trying to block Rapid Spin. SoulWind knows better, establishes layer number 3 of spikes. 3-2 is the current count, but they both, in theory, have the ability to make those spikes go away, and finally Hypnosis does connect. So Zapdos is at 100%, but it has finally decided to go down for a nap. Claydol appears, and Zapdos going to stick around. And it does have Sleep Talk, just like last game, but it doesn't find the right move. T-Bolt blanking on the doll, and it's almost certainly going to click Rapid Spin here, and this would be the time to go to a Ghost if he's got it, but I truly don't think he does. He wakes up and Sleep Talks, which is not his fault. He didn't know when he was going to wake. It wasn't a rest sleep. It was a hypno sleep. But he wakes up and Sleep Talks, obviously does nothing. Rapid Spin happens, and the Spikes advantage once again over to Odin. So 2-0 on spikes in what is still a 6-6 game. Rachi comes in for the wish. Blissey also comes in for the wish. They both have teammates that would appreciate that, but they're both going to be selfish and keep it for themselves. As they exchange attacks, S-Toss doing a good bit more than Fire Punch. However, the 20% burn did activate there, so little bit of added damage for the Bliss to be annoyed by. Wish and Wish again. Do a quick check. Everything's pretty healthy for Odin. And it's actually relatively healthy for SoulWind as well, so this may end up being a longer, grindier game. It looks like they both have pretty stally teams, and it looks like they're both pretty healthy at the moment. Doesn't feel like we're overly close to a knockout. Body Slam there, fishing for 60-40 para nonsense. Even if it were to come, Zapdos can wrest it away, but gotta start somewhere. Thunderbolt coming down, as is Body Slam. Damage is a little bit better for T-Bolt, but does find the para with the second slam. Body Slam again, hoping he can full para a couple times in a row. But not happening. SoulWind rests at the first opportunity, and Zapdos, rid of its para, back to full health, pretty much back to square one. Rachi is not realistically going to knock it out here anytime soon. So Doll reappears. It doesn't even have anything to spin at the moment, so I'm not clear why it's here. I guess this is his Zapdos answer. After all, we know that it is Mono Zapdos again. Doesn't have Hidden Power or Toxic or whatever. It's only offense's Thunderbolt, so Doll can sit on it for a long time. Though it is, of course, to be noted that Zapdos has both Rest and Pressure. Doll has no such luxury, so if it came down to those two 1v1 as the last pokes, it won't, but if it did, Zapdos would actually win that, even though it can't touch the Doll, because it would PP stall him out pretty handily. Back to the matter at hand, we've got the Rachi and the Zapdos again. Like I said, this is a matchup where the Rachi is never realistically going to knock out the Zapdos. Thunderbolt there is basically lack of anything better to do, but if he happens to find a 10% para that Odin can't remove, since none of these dudes learn Heal Bell or Aromatherapy, then that would be wonderful for SoulWind as well. Gonna blank on the Doll. Like I said, Doll not in here to spin. There's nothing to spin. It's just a matter of walling the Zapdos. And back to Rachi we go. This definitely is seeming like a longer game here. PP very well may become, we're not quite there yet, but very well may become a consideration for both players. And yeah, pending some nonsense, pending crits or paras or whatever, it doesn't look like anybody's going to go down anytime soon. And Rachi even crit proofs itself here by just clicking Protect. So SoulWind didn't even have a chance to hack some out there. And Rachi back after Wish and Lefties to 93%. It was vaguely close to being something that was killable before. And just like that, now it's not. And it's the same thing here. You would need a bazillion full powers in a row to kill the Zapdos, but it's just going to rest the moment that it gets the chance. Which is not right now. There is one of those full powers, but quite a few in a row would be necessary here. Skarm comes in. Hey, man, I guess he should have attacked. That is 2 full powers in a row. Had the Rachi body slammed it twice, it'd be interesting. Zapdos would be low and would have to get out of the way, but that's not the way that it played out, and it does on the 3rd time get the rest off. And Odin takes the opportunity to get a 3rd layer of spikes down, which he knows that SoulWind is going to have a hard time removing because he does have that ghost to prevent Fori from rapid spinning. Though this is almost certainly a Crunch Pursuit Tar, so that could maybe eat the Gengar, but this Gengar also has Focus Punch, so the Tar has to be super aware of that if he tries to come in. Interesting dynamic there. If the Tar comes in at the exact time that the Gengar comes in, then he would handily eat him, because all the Gengar could do is Ice Punch Thunderbolt, which is whatever, and he'd be a couple pursuits away from death. But if the Gengar gets in first, then Tar has to obviously think twice about switching in, because eating Focus Punch would be bad news bears. Regardless, Zapdos does eat a Psychic for a pathetic 18%. Very well might be negative special attack nature from the doll there. 16% was Stab Psychic. That is so bad. Hits like a feather. And Sleep Talk doesn't super matter what he finds here. As it turns out, it's Roar, but like, it's all the same. Skarm is not going to stick around here, and it doesn't have any incentive to do so. All 3 layers of spikes are already down. Sleep Talk again. And Rest, but again, it doesn't really matter. Any move there. I guess Roar vaguely changes the dynamic, but not really. Thunderbolt there. The damage is whatever. The only good thing that can come is that Thunderbolt can eventually maybe power the Rachi, which actually would matter. But any other outcome is whatever. The damage, he can wish it away. He can protect for lefties. He can dance around it with pivots to Doll. Zapdos isn't about to knock anything out either, but if he can get a para, specifically on the Jirachi, which is a mon that really dislikes being paralyzed, then that would matter. But it's not going to happen here either, because it's going to be yet another Protect turn to guarantee the wish. And SoulWind takes this opportunity. He's been very patient with it. He's had it in the back the whole time to sneak Dugtrio in. So the way this is going to play out is it's going to be a 60-40 pseudo coin flip. If Odin finds the para with Body Slam, then he wins this one-on-one. If he doesn't find the para, then his Jirachi is dead. And of course there is the possibility on that first Earthquake that SoulWind instantly EQ crits. So it's a little bit better than 60-40. It's whatever if you factor in the crit odds. Let's call it 58-42. Very coin flippy. Slightly favoring Odin, and he does indeed get the Body Slam para, 60-40 to do so. So Dugtrio largely useless now, other than fodder. It's at just 24%, and crucially, it is paralyzed. 24% is an interesting number. If it were at 26%, for example, he couldn't use it as fodder, but at 24%, and with the 3 layers of spikes down, he does have the ability to just stop the turn instantly by switching that in, which could matter because it could prevent Rachi from getting Wish, or it could keep toxic damage on something, or what have you. There's no great application for it in this moment, but in the future, it could matter that the Dugtrio can just suicide itself to the spikes anytime that it needs to. So we are still at 6-6, 80 turns in. Not surprised given the teams that they're both playing. They're both pretty stally and grindy. Very much defensive teams for both of them. As a reminder, you guys saw it, but as a reminder of the stakes, if SoulWind wins this game, that's it. 2-0 over Odin. He's alive. He continues on. Odin is out. If Odin wins this game, we're simply going to a Game 3. And the outcome of this one is It's still unclear to me. I mean, Odin has had the 3-0 spikes advantage for a long time at this point. And it feels like that should matter, too, because 5 out of the 6 for SoulWind are all spikes vulnerable, so it feels like that should be brutally crippling to have those 3 spikes down, but SoulWind has handled it pretty well. He doesn't seem too boned by it. He's keeping most of his things pretty healthy. The Doug Trio is effed, but that's more because of the body slam power rather than the spikes, but by and large, even though he hasn't been able to spin the whole damn game, SoulWind is keeping in it, despite those 3 layers of spikes. I mean, this is, like I said, a very defensive team for Odin, so it doesn't exactly maximize the pressure of the spikes and force a bazillion switches the way, you know, an Arrow or a Mixed Mence or a CM Roarcoon or something like that would do. He has a lot of defensive stuff, very content to grind the game out, but yeah, I don't know who's winning this game. In theory, it's supposed to be Odin because of the spikes thing, but SoulWind has been managing just fine. And we have had a couple of particularly long games in this tournament so far. I myself have had to narrate 2 of them. One of them was just under 200 turns, and one of them went over 200 turns. Those were both pretty grindy. I don't know that this is going to 200 turns level of grindy, though it might. But we're certainly... It's another not short game of ADV, that's for damn sure. 6-6 on turn 92, not the norm. But it happens when you have 2 very defensive teams that are not in any rush to knock things out. The Zapdos really, I mean, I like this set of Zapdos for SoulWind. It really, really needs at least a layer of spikes down to be effective. As it stands, the roars are so... Who cares? Like, yeah, you can roar me, but like, there's no punishment for doing so. You roaring me means I just get lefties and I go from there. There's got to be a spike to make this thing do any actual damage. And SoulWind has not been able to keep a spike down because of the Claydol. That was another opportunity to potentially critter power the Rachi, but it just hasn't happened, and we all know it's going to click Protect here. Better safe than sorry. And Rachi, just like that, from something that can potentially be knocked out to 90% in one turn. There's Wish coming from SoulWind. See who needs it. Fori, maybe. Fori, yes. And Fori dead. So it takes 98 turns. Oh, well, I guess it's not going to be as long as I thought. That's going to be a concession on the spot. SoulWind must have felt very behind in this game and or felt that he needs his spiker or his spinner to have any chance. He loses both in one blow when the rock slide comes down. Between that and the fact that there's 3 layers beneath his team's feet, he feels like he's not going to win this anytime soon, if at all. It is weird where the first knockout of the game prompts a concession. That doesn't happen very often, but I don't know. In this case, it might not be premature. The Duck Trio is now actually dead. There's no chance of spinning the spikes away. And then, like I said, 4 of the 5 living pokes are grounded. Zapdos can't damage anything because the doll could just wall it forever. I don't actually think that was premature. It might look like it on paper, but I don't actually think it was. I think it would have been damn near impossible for SoulWind to win that game, and he simply would have wasted another half hour or whatever this took in real time of each of their times by playing it out. So I don't actually mind that concession. I'm typically anti-premature concession, but I don't know that that applies in this case. So the series continues on. It'll be a third and final decisive game. It's either going to be SoulWind or Odin continuing in this tournament in the lower bracket into the 4th round, and the other one is going to be out with a disappointing 1-2 record. Here is the third and final game between SoulWind and Odin for CI7 Round 3. SoulWind is on the bottom for the third and final time. I Love You, Jesus is still Odin on the top. And we've got Skarm and Tar, respectively, both of whom are comfortable staying in. Rock Slide there with the flinch possibility, doesn't get it, and layer number 1 of spikes established for SoulWind. He protects, and Odin takes the opportunity to Dragon Dance. A little bit scary, especially if he predicts something like Swampert here and he gets it with EQ, but he actually goes for Rock Slide again. Critter or flinch there actually would have been really, really bad for SoulWind, but neither one occurs. He does manage to avoid the bad luck, and Gengar is what gets roared out here. Will it be yet another Hypnogar with Focus Punch? We've seen that 2 times out of 2. Very well may bring it all 3 games, knowing Odin. Thunderbolt doesn't tell us much of anything. Most Gars have that. But there it is, the patented Odin Hypnosis Gar. Does not leave home without it, and he's going to connect on his first attempt with Zapdos. Looks like yet another stally team from SoulWind. In fact, it looks a lot like the team that he used earlier. And hell, this might be a reuse for Odin as well. This actually might be a reuse for both players, which is pretty damn lazy prep, and or 2 guys that are narrow and like what they like and aren't comfortable playing other things. But regardless of that, this is the matchup that we've got. Spikes come down for Odin as well, so 1 layer for each. Neither one has shown the way to remove it yet. And Fire Punch protected against as Skarm lefties itself back into the green. Fire Punch coming down again. And Spikes layer number 2. Protect, why not? Hasn't been the most riveting series, guys. I'll call it as I see it. I mean, it's not an absolute snore fest the way that the 300-400 turns, all they're doing is switching kind of games are. But by and large, I mean, Odin's game 1 team, I guess I would classify as stall. But other than that 1 team, 5 teams out of 6 that have been used in this series are stall teams. That means we have 2 stall mirror matches going on, and then the 1 that was stall against whatever you want to call Odin's first team. But by and large, it's been a series with a lot of protecting and a lot of just wishing, recovering, protecting, not actually doing much of anything. And I know it's not the most exciting thing in the world to watch, but gotta narrate it anyway. Skarm going down for Odin this early is certainly relevant. But then again, since this is, in fact, the Superman team that SoulWind used in Game 1, I guess the spikes are really not all that good. If it is the exact same team, and it certainly looks like he's just reusing, if it is the exact same team, then it's going to be Last Poke Bliss for SoulWind. So Skarm not that exciting in the matchup. Only 2 of the pokes are spikes vulnerable. But he did get 2 layers down, so take what you can get. We'll see. Skarm going down is not the end of the world for Odin, but it isn't a good thing. Wish coming down here as he wishes upon the Jirachi star. Going to keep it for himself. Fire Punch, Fishing Burn, doesn't find. Fire Punch, Fishing Burn, finds. So the better luck on this turn for Odin, I believe, don't quote me on this, we could check in Game 1 if we had to, since it's the same team. And also, seemingly, Odin is reusing the same team that he just won with, so it's the Game 1 team from SoulWind which won against the Game 2 team from Odin which won, which is really lame. Not a big reusing within the same set guy myself. I mean, it's within the tournament rules, so you can do it, but it's lazy, and it's not super exciting to watch. Lazy prep for sure. But nevertheless, their prerogative to do. And that is what we're looking at here. We're looking at the team that we just watched from Odin in the previous game against the Game 1 team from SoulWind. And as I remember, the Bliss does have aromatherapy, so the burn inflicted via the Fire Punch on the Rachi for SoulWind is gone. Misdreavus seems pretty menacing, I think, against Odin's team. There's a couple things. Certainly this DD Tar that can handle it and are not about to get Paris songed out anytime soon, but a lot of the really passive stuff, the Jirachi, the Doll, even this Gengar, that Mischievous can actually trap it and effectively Paris song it out. So as much as I'm not a Missy fan against particularly stally teams like the one that Odin's running with a lot of do-nothing-ish pokes, the Missy is actually reasonably good in this matchup. Gengar obviously threatens Flygon with the ability to hit that 4x weakness via Ice Punch. SoulWind is obviously not going to let that happen anytime soon, but that is in fact a thing that can happen. Rachi comes in. It's at about half here. Hypnosis is a little bit annoying. If Rachi switches out, it'll reappear, but it'll have to step on those two spikes, so maybe with a crit or another Hypnosis landing or whatever, maybe he can get there on the Rachi. I mean, he can force it awake via Aromatherapy, but it's getting low, especially because he leaves it in to eat another Thunderbolt here. It's in crit range now, and out of the way he goes as Zapdos comes in. That also gets Thunderbolted. The reason that he went to Zapdos there rather than Blissey is because he suspects that it is Focus Punch on Gar, as it so often is with Odin, and he obviously doesn't want to switch the Blissey into a Focus Punch. So Claydol, as it did a million times last game, is going to blank the Zapdos, but the key difference in this matchup is that he can't spin freely because the Mischievous is going to shut it off all day. Psychic there 23%, underwhelming against the Missy. The standard EVs for Mischievous are all bulk. Max HP, max special defense, very likely. Mean Look on Tar, that's not the ideal target. Rock Slide comes down, just 14% to a bulky defensive Flygon. And in comes Doll for the reappearance. That takes almost nothing from Rock Slide. It legit comes 1 point short of not even negating lefties. Skarmory in. And Rapid Spin does get off despite the presence of the Mischievous, so spikes go away, but very briefly. Skarm can just reestablish them here, and there's not really anything Odin can do. Instead, he goes for Drill Peck, thinking that the Gar would come in, and he is spot on with that prediction. It takes 55%. So that Gengar, one of the sacrifices that it makes is basically any bulk at all. If you're going to be investing in speed and special attack and not wanting to take away from your attack stat, or maybe even investing into your attack stat, then there just isn't that much damn room for bulk. And you can see there by how much Drill Peck did from a Skarm that probably has no attack investment whatsoever, still nailing the Gar as hard as it did there. And that was a good prediction by SoulWind to make that happen. Now the Gengar is at just 11%. It could catch a Wish later from Rachi. And certainly Odin can try to make that happen, but if the Gengar takes any hit from anything at all prior to receiving a Wish, it's going to go down, and this is going to get really ugly for SoulWind, or for Odin rather. There is a T-Wave there, so it's going to pop the Lumberry from this DD Tar, so if he T-Waves him again in the future, it's going to be there to stay. In the meantime, Blissey out of the way, but same problem as before. Rock Slide not going to get you through the Flygon here. 17%, nowhere near what it needs to be, and out we go. Toxic going to miss on the Doll. Psychic Rapid Spin, EQ obviously hasn't shown the last move. It could be Refresh, but it also could just be Ice Beam or Boom or something like that. It very well may be that the Toxic, if it were to come down, is something he cannot deal with. Here comes Mischievous trying to block Rapid Spin. And Odin with the right prediction, clicking Psychic, 21% there. It's in range now of a critical hit, but SoulWind not even going to possibly allow that. Just going to go for the rest, just in case. And the Specs drop comes down, so like future ones are going to do more, but SoulWind could just switch out. And of course he does. Skarmory comes down, and there is the Rapid Spin into the Ghost, so he knew that there was going to be a switch there. Good prediction for Odin, but he can just reestablish the spikes here, and there's not much that Odin can do about that. There's got to be at least one layer, and there it is again. Mischievous comes into something it feels safe against. That actually might be a mistake, though, for SoulWind, because he can now pass the wish to Gengar, which, had SoulWind played this differently, that's something he could have prevented from happening, and obviously wanted to prevent from happening. The Gengar was on the ropes, and he just got a get-out-of-jail-free card there, and got back up to a relatively healthy 61%. So perhaps a little bit of a boo-boo for SoulWind there, but certainly not a game-throwing error by any means. And the one and only knockout is still the Skarm one from a few dozen turns ago at this point. Still a 6-5 lead for SoulWind. Odin hasn't shown the last poke, but if you were paying attention to last game and have even a tolerable memory, then you should know what it is. And there is the Psychic coming down. It's my low tick, by the way, if you don't remember. Rest coming down again. Well, we know that it had Lum and it doesn't anymore. It can DD up here, but it's afraid of the Flygon because it's just one of those towers that doesn't have Ice Beam or anything that's going to particularly plow through Flygon, Double Edge, whatever. So the Flygon is just going to be a pretty safe switch into the T-Tower over and over. As good and threatening as T-Tower is, DD Tower in particular, if you just don't have the right set, which seems to be the case in this instance, then like any other threat in the game, it has counters, it can be negated, and SoulWind has the tools that he needs to shut off the DD Tower in this case. 2-to-1 spikes count. Thunderbolt is just 27% there. It's just not going to cut it. He could break this with a timely crit, but far from guaranteed. Right now would be a wonderful time if you're an Odin fan to land a crit and kill the Missy. We'll see if SoulWind even allows that possibility. And he does. He stays in. So a crit, in fact, would have done the job there. But Odin does not find it. Rest happens. And Missy, just like before, back to full health. And SoulWind's going to stick it out. So Odin, once again, deep sea fishing for a critical hit. Thunderbolt again. Now, a crit might not even do it. Like a 24% roll doubled to 48 would not suffice in this case. That roll would have with a crit. But no dice, and it's rest yet again. Let's check on Thunderbolt PP. Got 12 of them according to this, and that's if none of them had gone against Zapdos earlier, which I don't remember, and I'm too lazy to go back and check. But Thunderbolt happening yet again on Missy, and still can't find a critical hit to break through this. One more time, 28%, as we get a decent idea of what the damage roll is. We've seen all the way as low as 24, all the way as high as 28. Critical hit here, just about any damage roll would get him. But he goes back to Tar. I don't understand what the point of that is. You know that SoulWind is just going to go to Flygon here. What does the T-Tower accomplish? Alright, you get Garin on... I mean, I thought it would be Flygon. You get Garin on Skarm, sure. What prevents Missy from coming in here? Ice Punch is interesting. He decides it's worth it to trade Ice Punch for Drill Peck. I'm inclined to agree. And now Gengar's in this awkward position again where he's at just 14% and basically any hit from anything and he'll be dead. And SoulWind is totally willing to eat a Thunderbolt in exchange for killing the Gar. Was very happy to make that trade. Odin, wisely, did not oblige. I think it's a pretty bad trade for him. But yeah, Gengar back in dire straits, and once again is going to have to eat a wish in order to be remotely healthy here. Otherwise, yeah. Otherwise, he's just going to be chilling at 11%. Or I guess it was 11 last time. What is he, 14 now? Yeah, 14%. Still too low. Gonna try to Psychic down the Missy now. I don't know about all that. Missy kills both sleep turns, and she is still at a comfy 58%. Well out of range of even a max roll critical hit. T-Tower reappears. Don't know why he keeps switching to T-Tower. All it's doing is stepping on spikes every time and not actually breaking through anything, but Perhaps Odin has a plan. Here comes the Flygon counter, as has been the case throughout the game, and the best thing he can do to it is a 21% hidden power bug that is just not going to cut it. And to the surprise of no one, hey, it's MX the Milotic, just like last game. MX the shiny Milotic, might I add. Milotic a cool shiny, in my opinion, one of the better looking ones, but that is neither here nor there at this moment. We end up with Gar and Zapdos staring each other down. Ice Punch would not kill here without a crit or a freeze. And SoulWind knows that, so he's happy to eat it and get a T-Bolt off if Odin were to oblige, which of course he does not. Here comes Misdreavus again. I don't get why we keep going to Tar. All it's going to do is get Spike's damage and prompt out the Flygon. I don't understand the switches to Tar over and over again. I mean, even this, like, alright, you get Gar in on Flygon. That's fine, but what prevents the Missy from coming in here? SoulWind, of course, is going to protect first. I mean, I guess the point is that it gives you an opportunity to predict. You can try to catch Blissey with Focus Punch or whatever, but most of the time, Misdreavus is just going to come in. And it does give him a chance to freeze him here. He also could kill him with a crit, so either of those would do it here, crit or freeze. And he gets neither. And once again, a rest gets off. Odin has not been able to find the added effects that he needs. I feel like I said that exact same sentence in Game 1. I feel like by and large, this series has all been the same game. Blurs together a little bit because they've both reused a team. This is the second time Odin's used this team, and the second time that SoulWind has used this team. It wasn't this exact matchup, but that's not really the point. It's a very samey series. Not going to lie to you, this is not the most entertaining CI match I've ever narrated in my life, but gotta narrate it. The result will stand all the same, so whoever wins here continues, whoever loses here goes home, regardless of what they use to get there. Those are the stakes. And T-Tar's trapped, but who cares? And it's going to go for Rock Slide, because why wouldn't you? Immediately met by the Flygon counter, yet again. And out of the way we go to the doll. This game has largely been one big loop, but finally something happens there that might break that loop, unless it's just Refresh Doll. Which, knowing my luck, it'll be, because that'll drive the game out longer. Ooh, Rapid Spin, not Refresh, you say? Do we have actual progress in this game? Is it not a Refresh Doll? You certainly can't refresh now, because you'll just get Mean Look trapped, so if you were going to refresh, you had to do it on the turn before. He went for Rapid Spin, which gives me a glimmer of hope that he doesn't have Refresh, and we actually have progress here, and this game might not go 200 turns, but it is yet another long one in this stall on stall, just like before. Approaching turn 100, the only knockout is that one from a bazillion turns ago. The Skarmory from Odin, depriving us of its company. Everybody else still hanging out for a while. Zapdos in, crit opportunity, but goes for a cover. Crit Surf or Ice Beam with the help of the Sand. Perhaps kills the Zapdos there, but didn't pull the trigger. And he's going to take a nap. Oh yeah, that Ice Beam for sure with a crit would have gotten it done, but Odin hasn't found a whole heck of a lot of those. He's had many opportunities, as you often do when you're playing against a stally team. You have many chances to crit things, but the RN Jesus... Odin might love Jesus, but the RN Jesus does not love him back, has not granted him the critical hits that he's looking for. Ice Punch there, yet another opportunity to kill something with a crit, but now he's going to have an opportunity for a kill if he finds Thunderbolt, and he does not. Killing the Gengar would certainly speed up the game in SoulWind's favor, but was not able to find the 1 out of 3 chance with his RNG either. But man, Odin has had a lot of chances to find crits that he just has not been able to find. And it's certainly far from over. I mean, especially with the Toxic on the Claydol, things do speed up a little bit, but at any given time, the Gengar can just catch a wish, but PP is becoming a factor here. Got 9 Thunderbolts, and I don't even know if that's the real count, because like I said, any of them against Zapdos would take 2 PP, which this wouldn't show. And then the other PP is not so important, but once he runs out of Thunderbolts, it certainly becomes less of a threat. Went for Ice Punch there, of course, Flygon being the ideal target. SoulWind just fucks up and leaves it in and eats an Ice Beam, but that's never going to happen. Tries to freeze the Missy there as well, but again, cannot find the RNG that he's looking for. T-Tar keeps coming in and getting itself in dangerous situations, but Odin is trying to pivot based off bringing the Flygon in. He keeps prompting the Flygon in, getting the Gengar in turn, and then fishing for hacks, which I guess is the way out of this, but well, he does finally find something here, but this is actually a dangerous one to catch because Missy can wake up and kill him with Thunderbolt at any time, so you got to be really careful if you're Odin. But it's a missed opportunity here for Odin. SoulWind finally gives him a little bit of a window to do something. Had he Focus Punch there, he would have killed the Blissey, but he's not able to pull the trigger. He pulls it on the following turn on Aromatherapy, and he gets a crit now, which is insult to injury because that was completely irrelevant. But he does manage to get a kill. So Odin gets himself a little bit back into this game. 5-5 now. Finally another knockout. 110 turns in. Hypnosis, one of those dumb moves. Live and die by the sword. 60-40. It's going to miss a lot. That one matters because the Aromatherapy user is dead. So if the Hypnosis had hit there, it gets interesting. Odin actually has an okay shot had he connected there, but I don't exactly feel sympathy. When you choose to use Hypnosis, you're going to miss a lot. That's just going to be part of the game. And he did, in fact, miss there, and he was severely punished. He lost the Gengar. So we end up Rachi on Rachi here. Same deal. If a burn were to come down now, because Odin did burn him before, but it got Aromatherapy away, but with that no longer being an option, if a burn were to come down now, then SoulWind would have to deal with that for the rest of the match. He manages to avoid it on this turn as Wish comes down, and he's of course going to keep it for himself and go back up to 100. Odin, of course, is going to be fishing for Fire Punch burns as he continues to spam that particular attack. Wish yet again, fishing again for 20% burn. But yeah, the RNG is just not cooperated for Odin. Whether it's crits or added effects or what have you, he just hasn't been able to find it. There's no reason not to Fire Punch yet again, so... And it's interesting that Odin takes the opportunity to wish from 100% here. SoulWind, rather. Odin just cannot find it. He goes again for Fire Punch. And here we are again. He finds a burn now, but who cares on the Zapdos? That can just rest it away. Obviously, the thing that you really want to burn is the thing that can't get rid of it. The Jirachi, not one of the Wish Pokemon. And there we go. No more burn. Nappy nap. Let's just check on the Missy health here. 61%. Maybe like crit Specs drop here or something. But he gets neither. SoulWind's pokes have been pretty resilient to added effects and critical hits throughout this game. And yet another rest as the doll continues to trickle away. Certainly if it has refreshed, this would be the time to use it while the Mystery Bus is asleep and you are not mean look trapped. So I will officially rule it out. If he doesn't use it here, then he doesn't have it. I'm going to say that he doesn't have it because clearly you go for it there if it's an option. He does find a Specs drop, but who cares? He's just dying to the poison. Gotta switch out, right? Rapid Spin? Maybe. Doesn't seem worth it. He has to take all that additional toxic damage, and the thing that's switched in is just going to relay the spikes anyway. And it is just last move boom, but I don't know if that's a concession for Odin or what, but he seems desperate now. He seems like he's throwing in the towel. I don't get what giving up the Claydol did there. I don't get what the boom did there. I don't feel like it got him any closer to winning this game. So I think Odin is either out of patience or out of steam, but he seems to be playing in such a way where he's feeling fairly defeated now. Body slam? Sure. 21% to Zapdos. Can't para what's already sleeping. Not going to knock him out anytime soon. Again, going to need crits, which has not exactly been Odin's specialty in this game. And that's probably the better thing to roar as well. Milo obviously threatened by the possibility of T-Bolt here, whether it's an awake one or a sleeping one. But SoulWind is going to respect the Ice Beam and get out of the way. Skarmory takes it just fine, just 18%. And this Pokemon is also suffering from toxic damage. And seemingly also does not have Refresh. Surf and Spikes come down respectively. Milo about to die to the poison if something doesn't change quick. Recover, sure. All that does is enable a third layer of spikes, not to mention Skarm can just protect here if it wants to. The poison only getting worse as Toxic does. Surf there again, desperately fishing for a critical hit, but just cannot find one. And the Milo is moments away from death. It's at just 5%. Ice Beam there, wrong call. Surf would have gotten him. Ice Beam comes up short. Drill Peck kills him. Not that it matters because the poison would have. And Odin is down to just 2 pokes here on turn 135. We know that the Cheetar isn't going to win because of the Flygon counter on the other side. So some Jirachi miracles are going to be needed here. Some body slam para, full para nonsense, and some crits along the way. Right now would be a great time. If you're an Odin fan, a body slam crit could kill the Zapdos here with a cooperative damage roll. Zapdos stays asleep. Now's your chance. Wah, wah, wah. No dice. Feel like it's the only thing I've said all game, but no critical hit yet again. Odin has given himself plenty of opportunities. The matchup does not seem great for Odin. The Misdreavus is difficult, and it walls and threatens a lot of things. I don't overly take pity or give sympathy to either of these players. Like I said, I feel like the prep was pretty damn lazy, where they're both just reusing teams. And this was not a very exciting CI match to watch. Certainly not one of my all-time favorites. They both just brought lame Stolly McStollerson for almost the entire match. We had long games. We had lots of protects, lots of wishes. Not the most riveting content, and I apologize for that. But to Odin's credit, even though he does ultimately come up short, like I said, he gave himself chances. He gave himself a million shots to find critical hits that just never came, find a freeze earlier that took forever to come. He also put himself in a position where had he landed that Hypnosis on the Jirachi, that maybe could have changed things, but instead he loses the Gengar. There's a whole lot of shoulda, woulda, coulda, and like I said, my sympathy is minimal when we're talking about moves like Hypnosis and moves like Sleep Talk that inherently, when you're choosing to use them, there's just going to be some RNG, but to an extent, even though this looks like a beating at the end of it, this ends up being a 5-2 that might have been a 5-0 had it played out. I think this was actually a lot closer than the scoreboard is going to tell you. I think that, like I said, Odin gave himself a lot of chances, played well, gave himself many opportunities to find crits or find hacks, and just didn't find them. But there's a world mathematically where a lot of the time he does find them, and I think this game would have looked quite a bit different had he managed to get some of those. But hypotheticals aside, as you know, the only result that matters is what actually happened, and that is going to be a SoulWind 2-1 victory over CyberOdin. SoulWind's going to continue on in the lower bracket in this tour, still in the hunt for back-to-back money finishes, which is very impressive. And CyberOdin picks up his first ever victory in CALLOUS Invitational, but he is going to go out with a 1-2 record, bringing his overall CI match record to 1-6. Not the best all-time CI match record, Always room for improvement, except for the fact that there's no more Callous Invitationals. Anyhow, hope you guys enjoyed the video. It was long, it wasn't that fun to narrate. Sympathize with my damn plight and hit the like button, or even better, consider donating and supporting the tour. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Kind of hard to, but I hope you did anyway. And I will see you guys in the next video.